listening. Thank you for tuning in. This is Ron Couming, and you are listening to the Internet Marketing and Business Solutions Radio Show with Ron Couming from RCS Technology Solutions. We help business owners and entrepreneurs attract, convert, and retain their ideal customers. The purpose of this show is to help business owners and entrepreneurs achieve even greater success by bringing on subject matter experts and giving them actionable advice. Today, I am humbled and happy to tell you that we have the founder of MakeAWish Foundation, Frank Shankwitz, who's on the line right now. Frank?
Yeah, good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Frank. How are you today?
Real good, and thank you for the invitation.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us.
It was a pleasure.
Excellent. Now, I know that you are the founder of MakeAWish, and we can certainly go into that. I'm looking forward to letting the listeners know, what went into all that. But I also want to let the listeners know that they've written a book about you called Wise Man, I believe, and they're in the process of making a movie right now.
Yeah, and a minor correction. It's called Wish Man, the book. And, yes, there is a movie with that same title that's in pre-production right now.
Amazing. And that is such a great thing. I've spoken to you many times. I'm humbled to call you a friend, and we've met at several different events and spoken. And I told you the experience that my niece Riley had. So, it's touched home, and not just with her as an individual, but her parents, my cousins, Chrissy Couming and her husband, and all them. And, because it must be such a horrible feeling. I haven't been blessed with children, but can you imagine such a helpless feeling when your child is dying of cancer or some, terrible disease, and you can't do anything, but now you have this ability, this gift to help them smile. And one of the things you told me is that there's evidence that people who go and have such a happy time, it contributes to the curing of the person or making them better?
Yeah, we kind of call that the power of a wish, and the doctors could not explain it. They've been studying this for years, and just as you said, the child is in very poor health stages as they go on their wish, and along with the family. It's for the whole family, not just the child. They've all experienced the same trauma. The child comes back and goes in remission, and the doctor cannot explain that. And then my thought is the child says, I've got a lot to live for. The heck with this illness, and God's just taking care of everything for me.
That's amazing. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you for now. I'll pipe in here and there, but tell us, what you want to tell us about the beginning of Make-A-Wish, your book and your movie. This is your interview.
Well, we have to go back. It's almost 37 years now. I was a motorcycle officer with the Arizona Highway Patrol, and this is in 1980. And during that period, the television show Chips was very popular. The show Chips was the adventures of about two California motorcycle patrol officers. And it starred Larry Wilcox and Eric Estrada. And especially with the younger set, they really liked that show, the motorcycles, the adventures every week. And the Highway Patrol was told about a little boy named Chris, 7 years old, who had terminal leukemia. In fact, Chris only had a couple weeks to live. And his heroes were the Ponch and John characters from that show. And he already told his mother, when I grow up, I'm going to be a motorcycle highway patrolman just like Ponch and John. And the family contacted the Highway Patrol. Is it anything you can do? Can we possibly meet one of your motorcycle officers? Anything special you can do for that little boy? And our uniforms, our motorcycles, all of our equipment were almost identical to California Highway Patrol. In fact, we did our initial training with CHP up in the Sacramento area. And I was chosen to be an officer that was going to meet Chris because I was on a squad of a 10-man squad of motorcycles, and we traveled the whole state of Arizona, 2 weeks in one town, 2 weeks in another, and really got popular with the kids when we came into town. They would start yelling from the tailgate, Ponch and John. It was just so fun. And we got permission to, when we had a little bit of off time, to go to the grade schools and talk to the kids about bicycle safety, which they could care less about. They wanted to get on the motorcycles, play with the lights and siren and that, but it was the greatest PR tool. And because of my involvement, I guess that's why I was chosen to be the one to meet Chris. And with his mother and doctor's permission, Chris was picked up at his hospital in our state police helicopter, flown to our headquarters building, where it was going to be the first time I had met this little boy, and he could meet a motorcycle officer. And it just turned out to be the greatest day, Ron. This little boy, I thought the paramedics was going to help him out of the helicopter. He comes bouncing out of there, runs over, "Hi, I'm Chris. Can I get on your motorcycle?" This little boy is smiling and giggling and laughing. And what I especially noticed is his mother standing in the sideline there, she's crying. And it dawned on me, she's crying because she's seen this little boy that's just come off IVs out of a hospital bed being a typical 7-year-old again, just running all over the place. And Chris went on that day to become the first and only honorary Arizona Highway Patrolman in the history of the Arizona Highway Patrol, and that's now almost 37 years later, complete with his own badge, his own smoky hat, his own certificate. And what he kept pointing to was my uniform. We have the motorcycle officer wings that we wear. How do I become a real motorcycle officer? And we just explained the training and that. But it was now time for Chris to go supposedly back to the hospital. But his doctor said, "I don't know what's going on. His vitals are so good. Let's let him go home tonight, back to his comfort zone." And when Chris and his mother left with the guys, all of us felt good what we had done. But we said, we've got him a badge and that, but a motorcycle, highway patrolman needs a uniform. And in those days, the uniforms were custom made by a tailor shop in the Phoenix area. It's about closing time. We knock on the door. "Can you make us a uniform?" This little boy's about this high, this wide, 7 years old. 2 ladies spent all night making this custom uniform for Chris. The following morning, with permission of our commanders, we went out to his house, red lights and sirens, several motorcycles, several highway patrol cars. You can imagine the neighbors. Chris comes running out, just beaming. We hand him his uniform. This little boy is just ecstatic. Runs in the house, comes out, again, just everything standing straight, almost military fashion, and just saying thank you to everyone. But he comes to me again. He says, "How do I be a motorcycle officer?" And I just teasing him, and I said, "The training we do," I said, "if you only had a motorcycle, we'd test you right now. We'd put traffic cones in the driveway and give you your test." Little Chris was a step ahead of me. Runs in the house and comes riding out a little battery-operated motorcycle that his mother had got for him in place of a wheelchair. Very serious, even had on the aviator glasses. Goes through the traffic cones, come back, and I passed my test. "You did, Chris." Again, this little boy is smiling and laughing. "When do I get my wings?" Well, those were custom ordered also. I said, "I will get those for you in a day or so." Unfortunately, Chris later that afternoon started feeling real ill again, and they rushed him back to the hospital. The next morning, I picked up the wings from the jeweler that made those, got permission to go to Chris's hospital. I also got a call that Chris was in a coma and probably not going to be able to survive the day. When I got to the hospital, went to his room, he wasn't, in fact, in a coma. His uniform was hanging right by his bed. Just as I pinned on the motorcycle wings on his uniform, Chris came out of the coma. He looked at me with this big smile. "Am I a motorcycle officer now?" "Yes, you are, Chris." His wish had come true. He showed us the uniform to his mom. He's laughing, he's giggling. He died a couple hours later. We learned that Chris was going to be buried in a little town in southern Illinois, and my commanders called me and said, "We have lost a fellow officer. We want you and another motorcycle officer to go back to Illinois and give Chris a full police funeral," which we did. Chris was buried in uniform in his grade marker reads, "Chris Gracious, Arizona Trooper." Now, while we were back there, the press really picked this up. What was about this boy's wish, and how did you make this wish come true? And flying home back to Arizona, it's probably about 36,000 feet, maybe over Kansas or Iowa or something. I just started thinking, he had a wish, and we made it happen. Why can't we do that for other children? And that's when the idea of the MakeAWish Foundation was born and went into motion.
Frank, that is, I've heard the story. Like I said, I've met you and I've seen you at many events. But every time I hear that story again, I well up and I got to clear my throat a couple of times. I'm telling you.
Well, and I've told that story thousands of times. When I also tell that story, you can't obviously see me, but I got a little tear in my eye because I can see that little boy every time, especially when he came out of that coma and saw those wings. And I always like to think those wings maybe helped carry him to heaven.
Yeah, and it's undoubtedly it did. And I can literally in my mind's eye when he is sitting, when he comes running out and he's doing his little test on the cones in the driveway.
Yeah.
I can see that, man, and I can see his mother crying with joy. That's amazing. An amazing story. And from that, so many other people have benefited. Can you tell us a little more about the program and going forward after, such?
Yeah, and it took me 6 months from my idea to born. I want to start this nonprofit foundation, MakeAWish Foundation. It was very difficult to start. I couldn't find people that believed in the mission. And in Arizona, for the Corporation Commission, you had to have 5 people on your board total to develop a nonprofit. And everybody that was involved, a lot of them said, I've never heard of anything like this. It's not going to work. Too much time, too much money involved. But it took 6 months. But I've got, and you've heard our friend Greg Reed call it Stickability. I'm going to turn all those negatives to a positive. And we did get it formed 6 months later. In November of 1981, we became official of MakeAWish Foundation. In March of 1982, we had enough money to grant our first official wish, again, to a little 7-year-old boy. And in those days, Ron, it was for terminal children because these children were not surviving these childhood cancers. And now, 37 years, through the grace of God and modern medicine, about 70% of the children are surviving. And, in fact, the mission has changed to children with life-threatening illnesses. Because of that, we can reach out to more children. But because of this one little boy named Chris, who had a wish to be a motorcycle officer, the foundation has grown now 37 years later to 63 chapters in the United States, 36 international chapters on 5 continents, and over 350,000 wishes have been granted worldwide, which affects more than, we could count the family figures, a little over 1 million people, all because, again, of one little boy.
Frank, I mean, that one little boy, it's not just because of that one little boy, my friend, it's because of you. That one little boy, he had a wish and he contacted people and they reached out and, you, after seeing and experiencing all that, I mean, it started with that one little boy, and that's such a huge, compelling story. But all that grew from what you just spoke about, your stickability. You're seeing that joy and happiness in that individual, the boy, and in his family, and how, it didn't prevent his death, but like you said, the wings took him to heaven. Make-A-Wish Foundation may have started granting its first wish with that child, but its formation and everything that really has gone forward is a direct testament to your stickability in what you put together. So, I mean, you're an incredible human being.
Well, I thank you for those credits. And I was the first president and CEO, but I also had a full-time job as a police officer. And after a couple of years, and none of us took a salary. I've never taken a salary at MakeAWish. I had a job. I wanted all the money to go to the foundation. But I couldn't do both, and I had to make a decision. Am I going to be a police officer or am I going to run the foundation? And I really liked what I was doing for a police officer. I was being advanced. I was getting ready to be promoted to a detective. And plus, you've heard other people say, surround your people that are smarter than you. And we decided we had to find the experts in the nonprofit field. And it's about 1983 when we decided, okay, we're going to start hiring these people to make this foundation grow. Surround yourself with smarter people. And that was the greatest decision the board made at that time. Because of those CEOs over the years, now it's a multi-million-dollar foundation. Like I said, with chapters all over the world. And I think that was the greatest business decision ever made. Surround yourself with smart people. Hire the experts.
Yep, that's very true. And now, when you first approached Disney, what was their initial reaction?
Disney doesn't like
I know
this
the
story.
answer.
We call our first official little boy, the 7-year-old boy I was talking about, his wish was, I want to go to Disneyland. And, okay, we're arranging that. We have not a lot of money in our bank account, but I called Disney. I kept trying to call Disney, tell them who we are. We're the Make-A-Wish Foundation. What we'd like to do is get free admission. We're a nonprofit into your theme park and be able to get to the front of the line with a wheelchair. And again, very ill. He only had a couple months to live. And Disney not hearing of us, even though we were getting great press all over the place. Just, no, we can't, we don't want to talk to you. Finally, out of frustration, I called Disney and I said, this is Officer Frank Shankwitz, Arizona Highway Patrol. I need to talk to your Director of Public Relations. And they said, what is this about? And I said, I have a warrant for one of your people. This first time I got immediately to talk to the gentleman I wanted to talk to. When he got on the line, he obviously, what's up? And I said, this is, and I gave my name, my badge number, my supervisor's name, my supervisor's phone number, and I said, I just lied to you, and you can call my supervisor, and I'll be terminated right away. But if you will please listen to my story. Well, he listened to my story. A week later, Posse was at Disneyland, and it opened up the greatest relationship with Disney and Posse, now 37 years with Make-A-Wish, and Disney being one of the biggest sponsors of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I tell people, sometimes you got to lie, but qualify your lie right away.
Yep, and I that was creative positioning, Frank. That's how I like to think of it.
Well, it's called frustration, too. But again, stickability, Ron. Stickability. Absolutely. Not going to give up.
Yes, and that is another testament to you and how Disney became a major, if not the major sponsor and going forward. I know when my niece Riley went there with her family, they went there, they had the whole event, and they had such a great time. There was tons of postings all over Facebook. But then there was some problem. I think we had a snowstorm back here, and in Boston. I'm down in St. Croix right now, but in Boston, where I normally live, we had a big storm, so they couldn't come. So the Make-A-Wish Foundation, as well as Disney, put them up for another couple of days. So you guys are just amazing overall. We got about 3 minutes left, Frank. Could you anything you want to let the listeners know? Tell us more about your book, this movie, how people.
Yeah, the book Wishman came out in October. It's doing very well. It's available on Amazon. We're into our third or fourth printing already, and it's based on the movie is going to be based on the book Wishman, and it's a period piece. The movie Wishman is adventures of my life as a child from 1950 up until meeting Chris in 1980, all the hardships and everything I went through that developed the character. I always say that characters develop, not inherited. And fortunately, I had so many people in my life to help develop that character. But the movie now is in pre-production. In fact, I'm in San Diego right now. I live in Arizona, northern Arizona, and I've been here for the last 4 days for pre-production meetings with the director, executive directors. So we're moving along, hopefully start filming in northern Arizona of May of this year. We've secured all the locations. Everything is ready to go. Casting process is happening right now, and hoping for a release date in January, February 2018. So I'm very excited about life. And also developed this new career as a speaker, motivational, inspirational speaker. When I retired as a homicide detective, I thought, what am I going to do now? And fortunately, a gentleman named Greg Reed met me and said, we're going to develop a new career for you, and the career is going great as a speaker. I'm all over the country.
Yeah, Greg Reed's a wonderful man. He was on my show, this show, a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I heard you talk about his book, Stickability, and he has another book, 3 Feet from Gold, or at least he quotes that a lot. And I agree with you. He is a wonderful man. And also, I've heard you speak at Eric Swanson's events and other locations as well. So you definitely have a gift of speaking, and you have such a compelling story that it just brings people in. And plus, besides that, you have such a great personality. And I hear you have an incredible personal assistant now, Stephanie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's Stephanie. Our first time I've spent. In fact, you were there in San Francisco.
Yep.
And we've been at other several events, and this little girl has just got a brain like a sponge. She's so enthusiastic in that. And I said, I need an assistant. I can't do this all by myself anymore. And she said, I'm your assistant. And said, okay. And we just made it official yesterday. She's in San Diego right now, too, attending his meetings with me. So, in fact, she's flying home to Iowa. Stephanie lives in Iowa, flying home this morning, and I'm driving back to Arizona here in a little bit.
Frank, it's amazing because I met Stephanie at another event in Freeport, California early. I was there 3, 4, 5 of November. I interviewed her. Eric Swanson saw my interview. I introduced her to Eric Swanson. She came out there to Eric Swanson's event as a sponsor for the other company, Brain Trap, and then from there she met you. So it's just amazing, the domino effect. So I did an interview with her. Eric saw her, said, I want her to come to our show, and they worked that out, to his event, Habitude Warrior Conference. So they worked that out. And then by her coming there, she actually met you. And it's just really nice just how this whole thing works. It's just amazing.
Yeah, God just brings us all together for some reason and says, okay, you guys figure it out now. I introduced you. I brought you together. Figured out what you want to do or what I want you to do, and we did.
Good people helping good people, and it's also like a lot of things we hear at these events is you surround yourself with good people, like-minded people, people on a mission, and it just all of us, all collectively together, different levels and different maybe missions, but it's all for a greater good, and it's just a wonderful thing. Frank, I got to let you go because I got my next guest coming up in a little bit. Somebody I believe he's out there from San Diego with you too. But it's been wonderful having you. Do you have any closing thoughts for the audience before I let you go?
Just remember, everybody can be a hero. And what I mean by that is just give back some way. Help somebody. It doesn't have to be money. It could be your time. Buy somebody a meal. Respect our veterans.
Yep. And I remember the story you told about your mother in that situation and how you helped a neighbor out, or somebody gave you a suggestion of just helping her with her yard work and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And we could do a whole show on that childhood.
I'd love to have you back, man, whenever you guys get time. But thank you, and listeners, you've been listening to a great interview with Frank Shankwitz, the founder of MakeAWish Foundation, on the Internet Marketing and Business Solutions radio show with Ronald Couming of RCS Technology Solutions, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs attract, convert, and retain their ideal customers. Thank you.